Vince Warhorse telling you to sit down, shut up, open your ears, and listen to Count Out with Mike and Tyler.
Catching flies, it is love, tasting freedom, rolling dance, then crawling back.
We are live, pals. Welcome to another edition of the Bill After Sealer Approved Count It Out with Mike and Tyler. You had to scan a barcode to get into this week's episode, Mike. Nah, I'm just kidding. My name is Tyler, and I am joined, as always, by the one and only Mojito Mike. Mike, cheers, man. It's been a while since we've sat down and not done an interview. It's been five weeks since you and I have been together and done a list.
It's I forgot what the whole gimmick of the show was.
What do you mean? It's not interviewing Hall of Famers?
Right.
Oh, shit.
Even last week, we were supposed to have a list for you, and Adam and I recorded the majority of a list, and technical difficulties made it so that list was never finished. So we'll have a special list for you as a YouTube exclusive one day. We'll be finish it. Oh, excuse me.
I need to make sure I didn't delete that list, actually. I should go back into the archives of my recycling bin and make sure that it is not in there.
I'd appreciate that. Worked hard on that list. But we are back finally with a list, and you came up with this list at the last minute, inspired by something that happened less than 24 hours ago at Extreme Rules.
Yeah, as we record this, of course, because this gets released on Thursdays, but we record on Monday nights, as our loyal listeners know, all three of you. Thank you very much, guys. Let's just jump right into it, man. Bray Wyatt made a triumphant return to the company last night. It's what inspired my list this week, the top 7 Bray Wyatt moments. Not Husky Harris, it's Bray Wyatt. And I'm not counting last night towards the list because that's what inspired the list. So that moment, and we're going to talk about it now. So there's no point to put on the list and talk about it again, right?
Exactly. Yep.
Let's just go right back to the beginning of it. Mike, what do you think about the way they built up the return of Bray Wyatt and then the overall execution of the return?
I loved it. The whole White Rabbit thing, it was very cryptic, very weird, very strange, very Bray Wyatt. It was both subtle and obvious at the same time.
It's the best way to do it.
Exactly. Like you knew it was Bray. You always knew it was Bray, but there was always this thing of maybe it's not Bray.
Who do you think?
What I mean? So,
is there anybody else that could have fit that other than Bray?
If you're asking me, no, I don't think so.
Would you have been satisfied?
Not someone that's not already with the company.
Would you have been satisfied if that was those QR codes and all that, weird, like, internet-looking stuff and creepy stuff was the return of Retribution?
I thought we didn't say that word on this show.
One time only.
No, like that would have fit a character. Let's say Sami Callihan was bringing his hacker character back or something. You know what I mean? That would work. But the White Rabbit, everything they did, everything that Wyatt did while he was at the company, and everything that Wyndham Rotunda has done since he's been gone, because he's been doing these cryptic little thing on his own personal Twitter. This is him. This is him in a nutshell. So it all made sense for him. Again, it's one of those things where it was, you knew it was Bray, but you didn't know it was Bray until you saw Bray. And until we saw that giant adult-sized version of Huskus the Pig, you didn't know what it was until he showed up. And then we saw him, and man, it was crazy. All those like adult-sized versions of the puppets from the Firefly Funhouse, the two cool little nods they did to Brody Lee.
I really like that.
A lot of really cool things. It was a very, very cool moment, and they did it perfectly at the very end. We got our main event. They even put that little thing in the corner.
Yeah.
That they always put.
That's a very NXT move, eh? That's a very NXT move.
when that thing shows up, they're about to go off the air. So that goes up, and it puts you in, as a fan, it puts you into panic. You're
We're
like,
all we're
we were supposed to get White Rabbit. We were supposed to get White Rabbit, and then the lights go out.
we're almost at a
Holy
point.
shit!
We're almost at a point where I think we can do a top 7 moments that happen after the logo, like the thing in the bottom corner happens. Like they said, they're doing that more and more now, right?
Yeah,
Like
yeah.
with Ciampa and Gargano, they've done it a few times. That's a future that's maybe 3 years away, I think. To me, I'm most impressed about that this whole angle started and got buzz during a commercial break on SmackDown.
Right.
That's so cool that like they just dim the lights, and you and I have been to enough wrestling shows, and I'm sure the people listening to this show have been to enough wrestling shows that when commercials are happening, if there's no match going on, nothing's happening.
Yeah.
Right? And they just sit there and dim the lights and play White Rabbit, and then the red lights at the end, and people are like, holy fuck, Bray Wyatt's back. And they knew right then. And then the QR code stuff, I thought it was great. Very different. I'd like to know how much of that was Triple H. I'd like to know how much of that was Bray. What their collaboration was like.
I'm giving that 60-40 on Bray's favor.
Mm-hmm. I agree with that.
It's very cool. It's very obvious that Triple H just like, do what you want. So it's like, you tell me what we're gonna do. I think that's how it am.
If we were to do a list of top 7 comebacks of all time, and including this one on it, where would you rank it in your list? Would it make your list? Would it be top 7 returns?
I'm not going to tell you that, because that is a list that's going to happen soon.
That's a great list idea.
One of us will be doing that list sooner than later. So I'm not going to spoil that.
I don't like that people are already comparing. Oh, what was better, this or Punk's return? Who gives a fuck what was better? They were both awesome moments. Who cares? Why are we comparing this? And it was a year ago that Punk returned. Yeah. Who cares?
The only time I want to see you guys compare things is when you're listing them in 7s.
Yeah, exactly. Or if you're leaving comments in our comments, then we'll have some discussions. Let us know what you guys liked as your favorite returns of all time as well. Like, let us know what your favorite Bray Wyatt moments were. Hit the subscribe button. We're really pushing hard on YouTube, trying to bring you guys a lot of exclusive content on there, a lot of good content.
You know what I also like about this return that they did that's very different? Bray just came out. He didn't get involved in a match. He didn't get involved with a person. He didn't do a run-in. He didn't go face to face with somebody. You know what I mean? He just came out, stood there, and then it was done.
Yep.
That's all he needed.
That's
all he needed.
I'm very excited to see what the rating number for Raw will be tonight, as we record this tonight.
For sure.
Because there's that buzz, right? I knew something big happened because you, Jonah, Steve Bourne, and about 3 other people all messaged me like, "Are you watching Extreme Rules?" I think Steve actually might have spoiled it for me, but classic Steve with the spoilers. But Steve always ask us if we're watching. We work in restaurants, and Steve will be coming on the show in a few weeks. I did actually sit down and I recorded with them. I recorded with them already. It's in the can.
After that, I think you should throw it in the can.
I don't know I can't remember if he actually spoiled Bray or not. He said something that I was like, I'm not watching. I think Jonah almost spoiled it for me too. But I mean, with the moment that big, it's hard not to, man. It was really cool. I immediately, about a half hour later, I was able to sit down and watch it. Yeah, it was good stuff, man. I really liked it. I got a couple of things I want to talk about.
The pay-per-view as a whole was really good. I enjoyed the pay-per-view.
I haven't got to watch any of it yet, and I haven't got to actually watch Bound for Glory yet, which I want to talk about in a minute. I've got my matches that I'm planning to go through and watch. I'm going to definitely watch Edge and Finn Balor. Let's stick with Finn Balor right now. Tonight on Raw, a couple really big returns. One that surprised the hell out of me. Gallows and Anderson, who
I didn't see this coming, man.
They were very vocal about their treatment on the way out of the company, if you've ever
Yeah.
listened to any of their stuff, and especially towards Triple H and Paul Heyman. They were not fans of Papa H there, as everybody's calling him now, and the way that he handled it, and they felt like he lied right to their face. You know, you're a family, extend with us. Now, obviously, it wasn't Triple H's call to cut them, but they were holding some resentment towards him. So obviously, they've sat down and worked everything out.
And let's be honest, man, money talks.
Oh, 100%, especially with those guys. And I respect it because they're very clear. They're here for money. You know, they get it. This is a business. They have their love. Obviously, they love what they do.
And Triple H knows that. Triple H knows, like, these guys are draws. I'm going to pay them because they're draws.
I mean, they've got families and they got to pay bills. Very interesting that Anderson's still the New Japan Pro Wrestling never openweight champion. So that's kind of cool.
That's interesting.
Very, very cool.
I do feel like Triple H would be more open to letting these guys do things than Vince ever was.
Yeah, I think so too. And that's evolving where the business is going now. You know what I mean?
Exactly.
When Vince took over, it was him against everybody. Yeah. And the wrestling companies were too stubborn to work together because they all had egos. Yeah. It's not like that anymore. And you can thank Impact Wrestling for that, in my opinion, because they've been so open and they're showing that you can work together. Barry Wrestling just ran a great show on Saturday, which I actually got to ring announce for. That's why I'm a little raspy in the voice today. I almost had a massive voice crack when I was introducing Young Jay Lee, friend of the show, because I was just so pumped up. He's such a great guy. Van Landen and Isaiah Cross tore the house down in their match. Holden Albright turning heel on Van Landen. Got some explaining to do. He also has said if you want to hear that explanation, you got to pay for it on his Patreon because that man ain't working for free. I bring up Holden for a reason, though. I want to talk about something that I think is really important. And if you guys are in the Toronto area, especially because this is doable, it's going to be on Saturday, November the 5th. There will be some live pro wrestling. It is going to be the Arthur Caulfield Memorial Show, with all proceeds going directly to the Caulfield family. Arthur was Holden's father, who passed away tragically and unexpectedly about a month ago or 2 months ago now. Holden is such a great guy, and he's so giving to everybody. The advice that I just observing, you know, as a fly in the wall, just watching him interact with his fans, interact with the other performers, the younger talent, the training he does with Crossbody Pro Wrestling with the younger talent. He's just such a great guy. And if there's anything that we can do to help promote this show, I want to do it because I just have so much respect for him as a human being. I love the man to death. If you guys are in the area, it is Saturday, November the 5th, 6:30 p.m. It is at the Battle Arts Academy, 4880 Tompkin Road in Mississauga, Ontario. I don't know exactly the show details yet. Other than that, it looks like Alexi Nicole will be on the show. Looks like Gabriel Fuerza will be on the show. Space Monkey, and I believe Pretty Ricky as well, which is just some amazing talent from the Canadian scene. So if you guys are able to attend and do any type of supporting at all, we would appreciate it here. I'm going to try to talk to Holden and get some more information about the show. I really want to. I really want to be there. And Holden, if you're listening, we love you, buddy. But take it easy on Van. Take it easy on Van Landen.
Maybe we'll even bring Holden on the show to talk about the.
I think I'll reach out to him. I think that's a great idea. Let's talk real quick. Also, Brock Lesnar returned tonight while we were talking about Raw. I forgot to mention that, setting up a match with Bobby Lashley. I thought that was cool. Let's talk a little bit about Bound for Glory, Mike. I don't want to go over the whole show, but
I'm only halfway through. So,
are there any matches though that you don't know what happens?
No, the ones I haven't watched yet have been spoiled for me, unfortunately.
All right. Well, I want to talk about just the main event scene then. Okay. I want to talk about Josh Alexander. He successfully retained his title against Eddie Edwards. Sound like the match was amazing. Probably was. Bully Ray won the Call Your Shot Gauntlet. I want to know your take on it. I really like this, and I want to know what you think.
I don't have a take on it yet because I want to watch it. I want to see how the match went down. I want to see how Bully performed in the match. I want to see how Bully won. I want to see that face-off with Bully and Josh at the end. Until I see that with my own eyes, I can't make a call on this.
Okay, I have seen the face-off, so
I think there's some variables here. On paper, first glance, I wasn't a fan, but like you and I spoke off camera, the idea of one of the biggest names in TNA history going against Josh Alexander and possibly putting over Josh is a big deal for Josh.
yeah,
Josh hasn't defeated that. Like the biggest name Josh, and this is nothing against the guy, but the biggest name Josh has beat so far in his title reign has been Alex Shelley. You know, and Alex Shelley is amazing, but Bully Ray is a former world champion. He's a former headliner. He's, you know what I mean?
this guy's he's a big player, man. Bully Ray's a big player.
This could be a big thing for Josh. So,
I agree. That's my take on it. My take on it is exactly that. If Bully Ray can give Josh that rub, I think it's fantastic. If Bully Ray beats Josh, I'm going to be pissed unless there's more of a story to be told that ends up elevating Josh even further, right? And it's been the one thing with Impact Wrestling that I just think it's always been their biggest problem is they don't have that like one face of the company. You know, they never had their like John Cena, like not since AJ Styles. You know what I mean? Like, and Josh, not a knock on Josh because he's been such an incredible champion, and the list of matches that he's put on have been great for people like us that watch Impact. But we need to grow that audience, and a guy like Bully Ray is a great guy to bring in, grow that audience, and give that rub to Josh. You know, Eddie Edwards and Josh.
I've got another name for you too.
Eddie, well, let me just finish my point, and I want to hear it. Yeah. Eddie Edwards and Josh, it's a fantastic wrestling match, a fantastic main event, but Eddie doesn't have that name that Bully Ray does. Moose doesn't have that name that Bully Ray does. You know what I mean? Like Alex Shelley, all these guys, and Josh is hitting. They're having banger matches. I put them up against any matches that you've seen all year, but they're not drawing in that viewer. You know what I mean? Yeah. Impact is just kind of doing their thing, and their thing is better than anything else on the planet. So I'm hoping that Bully Ray can bring in some new eyes to Impact. And I want to hear your name.
Can you imagine? I don't know if he's got it in him to go toe-to-toe with Josh these days, but can you imagine former TNA champion Kurt Angle coming in against Josh?
Kurt Angle's last match. Book it, Conrad Thompson.
There you
go. Last thing I want to talk about before we get on to the list. I want to talk about your boy, Nick Gage.
Yeah, baby, new GCW champion.
Brand new GCW champion.
Championship versus career.
It
could have went either way, man. It could have went either way because they were alluding that Nick might be ready to hang it up. But once Mox signed that extension with AEW, they didn't really say what his contract stated on his indie dates. So who knows?
Did you hear the backstage issues about that match?
No.
And again, not a good listen to the Bash AEW show, and I'm gonna sorry AEW, but you know, it's a bad look for AEW. I think, in my opinion, AEW did not want Moxley to do the show, and Moxley insisted that he was going to finish his GCW run out. They hadn't wanted to do GCW for a little while, I think. That's me speculating, but I know for sure that they didn't want Moxley on this show. And Moxley insisted to do it because Moxley is fucking awesome.
Because Moxley's a man of his word, and he's their champion.
Yeah, and he's got the history with Gage.
He had to go drop the belt, for sure.
Apparently, GCW had no say in the way that the booking of the match was going to go down. And that's why you had the interference.
That's Brett's fault.
Yeah. Well, I mean, it's not just Brett's fault. Like, who gives a shit if Moxley loses to Nick Gage? Does it really affect what he does on AEW?
I mean, that's Brett's fault for giving in. That's his program. Why are you letting some other guy tell you how to run your fucking program?
They probably wouldn't let Moxley do the show if not. But yeah, so that's why you got the interference from Big Cass and from I can't remember the manager's name, Stoneheart or Strickland, or I can't remember his name right now, but that's why you got the interference leading to that match. So again, shame on you, AEW. All right, I'm done bashing AEW. You want to do a list? Do you remember how to do this?
It's a list. Let me go get a drink.
All right. All right, Mike, you topped up. You ready to do this? Because I'm not editing that out, so you better be topped up. All right, here we go. Top 7 Bray Wyatt career moments. This could include some matches, not a lot. Like I'm not really making this a match list, but there are some that probably will sneak on there.
I've got matches, but not matches. I've got moments in matches.
Okay,
right?
cool.
So yeah.
This list is kind of just what I've enjoyed that Bray Wyatt has done. Because I don't know, like I've always liked Bray Wyatt, but I'm not like as into him as everybody else is. You know what I mean? I love what he does, like, but like I'm not like, it's not like Bray Wyatt's my guy. You know what I mean?
Right.
I just respect the hell out of him and think he does awesome stuff. So these are the moments that I personally find entertaining or memorable that Bray has done. I know I'm missing a lot of stuff, and leave me the comments. I know I'll probably miss some big ones. So leave me the comments if you do, and we'll go from there. But I'm going to start off with one of my favorite debuts of all time, and my number 7 is the debut of the Wyatt family on Monday Night Raw when they attacked Kane.
Right.
I love this angle. I've never seen anything like this before. The way that they did this and Kane was the perfect first opponent for Bray too on the main roster, especially at that time period where like he was still really over, still a big deal, but also like coming towards the end of his career. So it was like,
so it was okay for him to be putting over young talent.
Yes. The entrance, the close up of their face, the lighting of the lantern. We're here.
Exactly. Yeah.
And then just the way they shot it with the dark arena and holding the lantern up to their face, I was blown away by watching this entrance. I didn't know.
And this was during a time I wasn't watching a lot of NXT.
I didn't watch any NXT. I didn't have access to it at this point, so I had no idea who Bray even was.
Right.
And I was just like, and then they laid out Kane and they did that thing with the steel steps in his head. And I was just like, this is the most effective debut. If we did a top 7 debut list of all time, this would be on my list as well.
Yeah, for sure.
Just super memorable. I loved everything about it. Not really much more to say about it.
No, it was a great debut. The imagery and the entrance that we got used to over the years, this is the first time we saw it. And it's still awesome after all those years.
Uh-huh.
You know what I mean? And everything they added to it with the rocking chair and the masks of the Wyatt family and all that. It just became this awesome thing.
Yeah.
And it all started on that debut. Yeah.
Yeah, they had such a great look, like Luke Harper channeling that Brody Lee look still and Rowan with the mask. Yeah, it was great. And the theme song, I almost pulled a U and gave the old number 7 to the theme song.
I would have allowed that. It's one of my favorite theme songs in WWE history.
But I couldn't do it for the old number 7 because it kind of ties into my number 6.
Okay.
Which is Bray Wyatt's WrestleMania 30 entrance.
Yeah, okay.
Probably, I might catch heat for this. This is one of my favorite WrestleMania entrances of all time.
I always mix them up. 30, is that the Scarecrows?
No, that was 31. 30 was the live performance of the theme song.
Okay. I do love that. Yeah.
So here's kind of what my takeaway is from this, because I was really drunk and I may or may not have smoked a bit of a joint for this WrestleMania. I know you and I had drastically different experiences watching WrestleMania 30 when it happened. I was with, some of my very best friends on the planet up in Sudbury, Ontario, of all places where I was living. The boys made a road trip up for WrestleMania. I hadn't seen them in a while, and we had a real good time. You know what I mean? And by the time this match happened, we were all feeling good. And when it happened, when they started their entrance, I turned all the lights off in the house. I had surround sound in my room, and we were fucking cranking it. And I just felt like, because this was in New Orleans, this WrestleMania, remember, right? And you're seeing all these crazy, like, voodoo looking people, and the masks on, and the live band is playing, looking creepy. And I'm just sitting there, and I'm thinking to myself, from a kayfabe standpoint, what was Bray Wyatt's week like in New Orleans to lead to this moment happening? You know what I mean? Like, think about that, like what his character was doing, what he was seeing that week, and then all of a sudden you've got the band and the mask and the fucking just the walk down and all the lights in the Superdome. It was the first time you got to see the Fireflies in a stadium setting. This is one of the best wrestling entrances of all time.
I'm not going to disagree with that. It would definitely be in the top 3 for me, at least.
Yeah, I put this above Rusev in the Tank. I don't care how many times Tim Atlanta screwed in it.
All right, solid start.
Moving on to the number 5. I might take some heat for the placement on this one, but I'm sticking with it. Bray Wyatt winning the WWE Championship at the Elimination Chamber.
Yeah, this is about where I would put it.
This was just such a nice moment. I didn't expect him to win this match. I knew it was kind of rumored to go Bray was going to win it, but I didn't think they would actually do it because Bray was just that guy that everybody thought deserved better and would always lose on pay-per-view. He'd always lose his feuds. He was on a huge pay-per-view losing streak for a long time around this time period. And just the reaction that he got from the crowd for finally winning the title, I just thought was such a great moment. And, say what you want about the next couple months with that feud with him and Orton. I thought it was terrible. I thought most of his feuds with Orton were terrible. They will not be on the list here. But I thought this was a really nice moment for Bray. Number 4.
Yeah, that's a good place.
Oh, yeah, I think so. Number 4, one that I witnessed personally, the debut of the Fiend at SummerSlam.
I'm still kicking my own ass for not being there that night. I went to NXT the night before. I just couldn't afford tickets to go to SummerSlam. I gave a lot of thought to getting some scalp tickets, but I just didn't want to sit fucking nosebleed for SummerSlam. But now I wish I sat nosebleed just to be in the building for that entrance. It was cool. The first time we saw the Fiend's entrance.
I was hammered too. I blacked out shortly after this. I blacked out halfway through Randy Orton and Kofi Kingston, but I was hammered for SummerSlam. This was cool live though, man.
This is one of the coolest moments in his career for sure.
Just the overall presentation of it, the slow lights going down. Yeah. And I really, we can even take this a step further and talk about the Firefly Funhouse vignettes leading up to this.
On my list, I'm not gonna lie to you.
Yeah, I didn't put it on my list. I'm going to give a spoiler. It's not on my list. It came really close, but the vignettes were great leading up to it. It was so different. You've never seen it before. And then you have this dark character.
They did it for months.
Yeah.
It started off with Mercy the Buzzard. And then that turned into seeing Bray as this Mr. Rogers character, which each week got a little bit darker, a little bit darker, a little bit darker.
Can I tell you what I thought the original character was going to be? I thought he was going to be a cult leader.
Right.
I thought I thought the kids were going to be he was just going to be this mesmerizing cult leader, like Jeffrey Jones or Jim Jones, which
is kind of what his original character was.
Yeah, a little bit, right? That's where I thought they were going with it.
Very, very Manson-esque.
And then even after this, I liked the follow-up to it where Jerry Lawler would be in Memphis and the lights would slowly go down and Wyatt would show up and hit the claw. I thought they really booked the Fiend really strong until Hell in a Cell. And then Hell in a Cell happened. And then Goldberg happened.
And then Vince and Nick with their cuts happened.
Yeah. Yeah. And then he looked like the Toxic Avenger for a little while.
Oh yeah. Forgot about that.
But my number 3, he looked really cool and a bunch of different spots of it. The Firefly Funhouse match from WrestleMania.
I would not have argued with you if this was your number 1.
I think my number 1 I'm going to get heat from you for, but I think I'm gonna get heat from everybody for it. This was almost my number one. And going back in hindsight, looking at my list, I wish it was.
Probably be my number one.
I wish I put this at my number two. You know what? I'm gonna change it on the fly. This is gonna be my number two.
All right.
I'm gonna tell you
But
my
this-
number.
Okay, we'll do number 3 in the number 2 spot then.
Yeah. This I
This
fucked up.
was-
I should have put this number two.
This was one of the coolest moments of one of the weirdest WrestleManias. You know, they had to pull something out of their ass. It's the first WrestleMania. We're fresh into this pandemic. First WrestleMania in history with no fans. What do you do? And they were able to pull this out and give us the weirdest fucking thing I've ever seen in my life.
It worked.
I never thought I'd ever see anything weirder than I remember the first time I ever watched the deletion match with Matt and Jeff. I remember watching that and being like, what the fuck did I just watch? But I knew it was something special. You know, it was the same thing with Bray and John Cena because it was so different. It wasn't like the deletion match. It was like this mini movie directed by fucking David Lynch. Like it was fucked.
I loved watching
but it
John
was really
Cena in the NWO. All the throwbacks to the ruthless aggression, just genius stuff. And I find that people either love it or they hate it.
Just like the Ultimate Deletion.
And I loved both of them. And that's why it's my number two, even though I originally said it was my number three. Change it on the fly. Number three, that originally was number two, but is now number three. The Wyatt family versus the Shield.
Yeah.
Elimination Chamber was the match.
I'm very curious about your number one because this would have been my number two, right behind the John Cena match.
My number one is going to be like, you're going to hear me say it and be like, really? And then I'm going to say why I said it. And hopefully you'll see why it's my number one. This is more of a personal favorite for me as well. The Firefly Funhouse definitely makes a strong case for number one. However, these guys, that moment that they did on Raw, where they both stood on each side of the ring.
Yeah.
Fucking awesome. And this match, what a match these guys had.
And they dominated. They dominated the Shield in this.
Put the Wyatt family over strong.
100%.
Just to get eaten up by John Cena.
But it was the right move.
Uh-huh.
The Shield didn't need that momentum.
No, they did not.
The Wyatt family did, and they got it and deserved it. All right,
Okay.
man. I have no idea.
Number one, I'm kind of cheat coding a little bit because it's kind of two parts.
Okay.
My number one is anything that Bray Wyatt and Daniel Bryan did together.
All right. I have rivalry with Daniel Bryan written down on my list.
Just the magic that these guys created every single time they got in the ring. And yeah, you know what? Maybe the Firefly Funhouse should actually be the number one because it's the most Bray Wyatt thing. You know what I mean? Like, it's the most Bray Wyatt-like thing. And I did this list a little bit in a rush. So maybe in hindsight, the Firefly Funhouse should be my real number one. But don't sleep on him and Daniel Bryan. They've had two amazing feuds together. They had the one feud where Bryan joined the Wyatt family to try to destroy it from the inside, which led to, in my opinion, one of the greatest moments in Monday Night Raw history inside the steel cage, where Bryan finally turned on Bray and the crowd. I've never seen a crowd like that in my life, next to maybe Hogan and Rock at WrestleMania. That crowd was out of control. Then they have an amazing match at the Royal Rumble that year as well, which people forget about. Very, very awesome match. Then you fast forward all the way to the Fiend stuff that Bryan and Bray did together. People forget about that spot where Bray pulled Bryan under the ring and ripped his hair out.
Yeah.
Like, that was crazy, man. Then they had two great pay-per-view matches. They had the strap match at the Royal Rumble. I believe they had a great match at Survivor Series as well that year. I could be wrong, though, on that one. I just love everything that they did together. So, you know what? In hindsight, I'll say Firefly Funhouse really should be number one. I'll move it down again on the fly. Number one, Firefly Funhouse. This is my number two by far, though. I think that Daniel Bryan is is Bray Wyatt's
It's
greatest opponent of all time.
It's definitely on my list. For me, it'd be more in the 3 or 4 spot, but it's definitely in the list for sure.
It's my number 2. That's it. Number 1, Firefly Funhouse. Doing it on the fly. I co-host this show. It's my list. I'll do what I want. All right. Haven't done a list in a while.
I get so much heat when I say that. All right. I have only 2 left over that you haven't mentioned.
Okay.
So I have 2 honorable mentions. One is from SummerSlam 2014, where he fought and defeated Chris Jericho.
Okay, great match. Yeah,
It's
absolutely.
a great match, and I think beating somebody like Jericho gave him a lot of momentum.
They had a great cage match as well.
And my other one was him doing a run-in and costing Roman Reigns the Money in the Bank match in 2015.
Great moment as well. I also enjoyed his run-in on Moxley and Hell in a Cell with the lantern.
Oh yeah, I forgot about that.
That one I put on my. I don't have many honorable mentions either.
No, those were my 2.
I've got 2 more after the Moxley one. The very beginning stages of Bray Wyatt and Alexa Bliss was so good.
It started out phenomenal.
I don't like where it went.
It ended out horribly.
But the beginning month or 2 was so good.
Yeah.
And I really enjoyed his tag team with Matt Hardy.
Me too. I meant to put that on my list. Their deletion match was great.
It was fun. Their tag team was great. They played off each other well. Yeah. Those are the only honorable mentions I have. I know we're missing a bunch of stuff because Bray's like that guy that does so many cool things, but they're on like Raws. Like he doesn't like get those big shine moments as much as he should, like he did at Extreme Rules this time. So I'm happy he got that moment. Now
that he's back, I don't think, in a few years we might be able to do a whole new list. The sky's the limit. He's still young. Like he's still like what, 30, like 32, 33. Like he's not old, and he's got a hell of a career left in him. And hopefully, Papa H, as he called him, treats him well and gives him that place to shine because he deserves it.
Yeah, I agree with you, man.
And let's be fucking honest, man. In the last 10 years, name me a guy who's more over. He's fucking over.
He is over.
He always has been.
Daniel Bryan's the only guy that comes to my mind off the top of my head. Yeah.
That pop at the pay-per-view last night was tremendous.
It was massive. Let's see where they go with it. You know what I mean?
I hope they open it up.
That's all I got for this week.
So what do you think next week? Should we do one more interview?
I was originally going to say we could do Steve Bourne next week, but we bumped him enough. Let's bump him again. Next week, we are going to be joined by WWE Hall of Famer and pretty much every other wrestling Hall of Fame that's in existence to mankind Hall of Famer, regarded as one of the greatest world champions in the history of professional wrestling. Mike and I got to sit down with the legendary Dory Funk Jr. from the legendary Funk family. We have a fun conversation with Dory. What an honor. What an honor to talk to Dory.
Because of the very busy life I lead, there's been quite a few interviews that I have had to miss out on that you have been able to do without me. That or my fucking Wi-Fi cuts out in the middle of a fucking interview and I miss Jordan Grace. I love you so much.
Let's put her over too. She did end up messaging you on Instagram. She came through on her word.
She's such a sweetheart. I love her to death, man. She's awesome. But I am so happy and pleased that I didn't have to miss, because let's pull the curtain back here. The Dory Funk interview took a lot of work. Dory had to keep pushing and pushing and pushing.
We pushed it a couple times. Dory pushed it a couple times. It took us 5 months of work to do this interview.
So there were so many times that they would have a date and I'd be like, I can't do that. There were so many times where I wasn't going to be able to be on that interview. And then all of a sudden the actual date comes. I was able to do it. Out of all the interviews we've done, I'm so happy I was able to be in there because, man, it was like being under the learning tree. how many times can you say that you've had like sat down and had a conversation with somebody so learned about the business and so knowledgeable about the business and has been in the business as long as he has and just done the things he's done in that business,
Yeah.
has had the told the stories he's told, been around, had feuds that he's had, like the Funks and the Von Erichs. Holy shit, like the Funks and everybody, like the Funks are one of the most hated yet celebrated teams in history. I can't wait for you guys to hear this interview because Dory's fantastic.
Well, I got nothing else to say this week, man. Tune in next week for Dory Funk Jr. Make sure you subscribe to our YouTube page at Countout7. Mike, why don't you go ahead and take us home?
Let me in.
We're here.